There she is. There's my
Couldn't
Jen.
unmute myself.
There's my Jen.
Ontario is in the house.
Yes. Well, I was just interesting because I came up here after visiting David and Kathleen. I'm like, okay, oh my gosh, it's 5:30. Where's everybody? And then Lesli came on, and the rest came on slowly. So my farthest one came on.
Should I do a little mic check when you're done? Okay. Check. Test 2. Testing 1, 2. David, how's it back there? Can you hear me okay?
Wave.
No? David? Can you hear me back there?
What?
Is that, can you hear me now? Okay. All right.
What? Huh?
Oh, okay.
What? What did you say? Huh? Huh?
Those ones usually had earbuds in. Yeah.
Well,
All right.
so we're. Yeah, Leslie was saying hi up there. Go up and tell a big, lovely story. Okay, so Stephen, I don't know if he's coming on. He said he's going to hope to.
Oh, hi, Leslie.
Hi, Kathy.
Oh, this is a mic for a tall person. This is good practice. I have to learn how to speak into this properly. Is this the right distance for this mic?
Yes.
You sound fine.
Talk to the center of the mic. Okay, thank you. Talk to the center of the mic. Oh, we should have an electric mermaid course.
Well, are you going to teach it?
No, I'm going to learn it.
You were the one that worked at the university, so I think you should be the one to teach it.
No, I never learned about the center of the mic. I need Kyle for that.
Oh, so Kyle's going to teach the course. Okay.
Yes, he is.
There we go.
Teach that. Oh,
That is true. Every mic
so
is
only talking to the center of this mic. That specific mic. Oh, anyway, I was talking to Leslie.
Hello. See, this can work too. Like, see, my mic is a little bit different. Hello.
Oh,
Right? I can go like, yeah. Yeah.
all right. Talk to the center of the mic.
Yes. Talk to the center of the mic.
Talk to Leslie.
Yeah, you can talk to me.
Yeah, talk to Leslie in the center of the mic to Leslie. Course on the Letter Mermaid 101.
Yeah. Oh,
She is. I love the outfit. And the pants are awesome. She did.
yes. Oh, it's so exciting.
She was.
There's an online link. Yes. Yes. Oh, super.
She was happy because it was her photo, and she always does.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Yes. Well, Jen was there a moment ago.
Appeared. Mark, oh God, that's good. We're going to hear some music. Oh, that's super.
Yes, you got to hear it from our side live
too?
by Zoom.
Zoom, yeah.
There's Jen.
I'm here.
There we go. We're just saying to Kathleen that she's usually on your guys' side, like on the Zoom side. She's here in person.
Yeah, that's it. You know, that's confusing as all heck.
It does, right? When we all go from Zoom to in person or vice versa.
Kathleen is supposed to be in a little box.
Well, we could make a little box around them, you know. I thought about that and having a couch there. I think next time we're going to do that. I'm going to make a little box and they're going to sit on that couch.
Kathleen is far too unique to be put in a little box.
Oh.
us here. You did it.
Oh, wonderful. Hello. Oh, nice to see you. I'm speaking to the center of the mic.
And she had a crash course on 101
Yeah, from
on Electric
Kyle.
Mermaid from Kyle.
Yes.
Kyle was the professor. She does. We better watch out. We might lose her.
Am I tired of standing here? Do you think Derek's going to take over now?
Unless you want to.
Yeah,
You've done the moderator. You can be the MC
yeah,
too.
you've been Karl once. You could be me.
And then you're going to be Char. That's a harder one to do. That's a harder job to fill. That's a much harder job to fill. But it's okay. Already. Okay. Alleged Mermaid Emcee Derek Hanebury is a Port-Alberni writer of poetry, fiction, and creative nonfiction who taught writing here at North Island College for many years. His new book, Something Else Altogether, is out.
Thank you, Karl. Hello, Stephanie. They're still trickling in here at Char's Landing, but that's okay. We're going to get started. I better get my camera so that I'm all the way in it. There we are. Welcome to everybody out there in Zoom land and everybody here live at Char's. We're going to have a great evening tonight. We've got Kathleen and David live here at Char's Landing as our features, which is going to be awesome. And we've got lots of open micers lined up as usual. We're zooming to you, of course, from the unceded territory of the Seashot and the Huputchesset First Nations here in Port Alberni. And we're grateful to them and their ancestors for sharing their land with us. And I keep getting little pop-ups here that I'm going to just take away. There we go. Okay. There. All right. So Stevens arrived. Good. That was the last of the open micers I was looking for. We're definitely
happy.
all set and ready to roll. But first we have to say, before we begin, thank you, Char, for hosting us. And continually working to make this a better and smoother and a more enjoyable evening for everybody. She's even rearranged the lighting in the place, so I don't have the lamp in front of me anymore. I'm not quite yellow anymore. I'm no longer jaundiced. And anyway, we're so grateful for all you do, Char, and making this happen. Yeah. And it's so great to see so many community events happening back at Char's now with COVID in the rearview mirror and all these great artists she brings in and community gatherings that she hosts. It's really fabulous. So for those of you who are local in-house, there is going to be a little bit of a snack gathering after. So please don't run away when we're done tonight. David and Kathleen are here. We don't get to sit down at the table face to face and chat very often, so we're going to do that. But in the meantime, we've got lots of good writing to share, and we're really looking forward to hearing everybody. And I'll thank the rest of the people at the end. Let's get started. We're going to leap off to Germany to begin tonight, and Lesli Omohundro Bronczowski is there and hopefully got to sleep an extra hour tonight now that you've adjusted to our daylight savings time and all is good. And we're looking forward to what you have to read tonight. What are you going to share with us, Lesli?
Okay, this is a story I wrote a few years ago. You'll hear it. And I just want to say the name of the town that I mentioned the story is really Buxtehude, which is for Germans even a very unusual name. When I tell people I live near Buxtehude, they don't believe that that's a real town, but it is.
Assumed.
Okay, the story is called Our Duck Pond. I'm going to miss him, says my stepmother. She wipes invisible dust off the coffee table for the third time, gets stuck on one spot, and continues wiping. She looks pale with that red lipstick, I think, but it's probably sadness. It's strange how people change with their situation. My father would always wipe off that table too when I visited him in their new house. So, my little lady, a cold Coke for you, and put the glass on a cork coaster. My father never dusted or helped around the house at all when my parents were still together. You could never just sit down at the table and start eating. You had to clear away the newspapers or remove the breakfast dishes from the table first. And even then it looked like, shh, shh, just done. That was my parents' argument back then, because my father thought it was women's work. Yes, I will, says my stepmother again. It is, as an aside, Mother's Day when my father dies, but we wouldn't have celebrated properly anyway. I always say, a mother of 4 children, she knows what she's worth without all the fanfare. Maybe a slice of apple pie, which I bake myself, with whipped cream to celebrate the day, but nothing more. The only thing I miss is the call from my father, which comes every year on Mother's Day. You get used to things, even if they only come once a year, like Christmas or holidays. I'm really proud of you, how you're raising those kids and what you're teaching them. You're a good girl, Mother. You're a good mother, girl. That's exactly what he says. I'm a bit surprised that I need this praise from my father so much. After all, I'm already 50, but I think you can see how important praise is even when you're older. I have tears in my eyes when he says it. But I won't really cry until I'm back in Germany, in Buxtehude, to be precise. It sounds strange, I know, like I'm playing the strong daughter and stepdaughter in America and then letting it all out in Germany. But that's not how I planned it. At first, back in Germany, I'm quiet. I hand out the sweets I've brought with me for the children and tell Hans that I'm a bit hungry. What's on the menu? I've got myself under control. We drive home and carry on as before. Don't ask me how I ended up in Buxtehude, sobbing from a broken heart that I know now will never mend. We live in the district of Harburg. It's probably pure coincidence because my friend Yasmin, who invites me there for coffee, knows her way around Buxtehude because she teaches at a dance school there. For all I care, we could be in Buchholz or nowhere at all. When your soul is wounded, you can only function on the outside. You just put one leg in front of the other. On the inside, you're just falling apart. You don't care about anything. I probably look like my own stepmother, without the lipstick. Yasmin and I go to a cafe on the Este, where we can see the ducklings swimming on the water outside the window. In retrospect, I think maybe it was the Buxtehude ducklings. Neither of us are coffee drinkers, Yasmin and me. Just 2 friends sitting in a cafe, looking out at the water with its chattering newborn life, caught up in a different kind of silence, broken only by sobs. You're going to grow up now, Yasmin says. Luckily, she had brought the tissues. But I can't say it with 100% certainty. Maybe it wasn't a coincidence after all. What do I know about all the things that happen in the universe? Do I know whether everything hasn't already been predetermined somewhere up there and we're just carrying it out? At some point, when we were still a family, my father said to me, "Don't let others influence you. Ask your soul where to, what it needs." At the time, I thought he was referring to the incident on the school playground that I had told him about, how the black boys knocked the books out of the hand of the white girl. Over nothing, Papa, I say. They just did it for nothing. I thought he was telling me to stick to my guns, to do what I thought was right. But maybe what he was really doing was giving me those words for later. Your soul will always know where it needs to go. That's what he wanted to tell me. It could be a Christian church in Washington, D.C., or just with a Muslim girlfriend on the banks of a duck pond in a small town in Germany. Yet, my papa didn't know Germany, let alone Buxtehude. But I think he was my papa, and he knew my soul.
Beautiful. Thank you.
So, thank you.
That was gorgeous, gorgeous story. And I'm sure your father enjoyed it immensely, as did we. Thank you for sharing that, Lesli. That was awesome. Yeah. Great way to start us off tonight. Bring us into the heart space and philosophical space and the literary space all at once. Nice. Thank you. All right. We're going to come in-house now, and Vicki Drybrough is going to share some of her work with us. We won't overlook her tonight like I think I did last one. You let me forget it, but I'm not going to let myself forget it. That's all right. Yeah, anyway.
Sweet. Oops. Can't see what I'm doing. Okay. Is that okay? Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
Okay.
Good out in Zoom land. Just checking. Yep. Thumbs up out
Okay.
there.
Good. Did you say the center of the mic? That's what Kyle says. Okay, here we go. Center of the mic. I began my career in what was once the largest logging camp in the world, largest in population, area, and production. By the time I got there, the first one was a thing of the past. The people who remained looked and acted like the people you would see in any other community on the coast, until the workday was over and darkness fell. Then it reverted to the logging camp subculture of the 1950s. The town site was divided into two sections, bunkhouses and married quarters, with a swimming pool, community hall, and school on neutral ground in the middle. Separating the two halves were the ball field and the school playground. For those of you who have never lived in a logging camp, think trailer park boys surrounded by mountains in the middle of nowhere. People in the married quarters drove to the post office or the coffee shop, at most a distance of 500 feet. When they pulled up in their dusty but new crew cabs, you would most likely hear, "You pick a fine time to leave me, Lucille," or "A drunkard's dream," if you ever did see one, blaring from the cassette player. As soon as the engine shut off, the kids tumbled out like empty beer bottles, demanding candy and chips before they even got inside. The parents had lots of disposable income, but very little in the bank. They drove the latest, biggest pickup trucks to haul the latest, largest campers and trailers. They bought expensive toys, enough booze to float the Queen Mary, and the latest toys and sports equipment for the kids. I never saw any books. A few families had trailers, but most people lived in company houses, which were long and narrow, built to fit on a railroad flat car, back in the days of railroad logging. Foremen lived in two-story homes that had been moved in many years ago by professional house movers. But no matter what your house looked like, everything happened in the kitchen. You ate there, gathered there, argued there, and sometimes had sex there. When winter storms cut off the satellite dish up on the mountain, people turned to each other for entertainment. They made the rounds from kitchen to kitchen, drinking, arguing, and retelling the same old stories, embellishing as they went from house to house. 9 months later, the inevitable new crop of kids was born. 90% of the kids in camp had birthdays in August, September, or November. Mrs. A's muscle-bound husband was built like a burly blonde stump, but her new baby was long and thin with a full head of dark hair. No one said anything in public, but every woman in camp remembered the handsome, dark-haired, 6'3" faller who had lived in the bunkhouse all last winter. Several women gave Mrs. A dirty looks when they ran into her at the coffee shop, but Mrs. A flashed a triumphant smile and blew cigarette smoke in their general direction. Then Mrs. B, whose husband was dark and wiry, gave birth to a big, round boy with a head covered in blonde curls. Mrs. B insisted that he looked just like her father and grandfather, who apparently were both blonde and heavy-set. Mrs. A curled her lip and lit another smoke. Summer came, and Mrs. A's husband went on a fishing trip for a week while she cooled her heels at her mother's with the kids. The more she thought about her husband and Mrs. B, the madder she got. She returned home in a worse mood than when she left. As soon as her husband returned from his fishing trip, she gave him a black eye and went to see Mrs. B. "You stay away from my goddamn husband," she bellowed from the doorway. Mrs. B tried to slam the door in her face, but Mrs. A pushed inside. Mrs. B retreated behind her kitchen table. "I didn't go near your husband. Don't lie to me, you slut. You're the slut. Ask anybody." The name calling went on until Mrs. A could see she wasn't getting anywhere. She came around the table and jabbed her finger into Mrs. B's chest. "I ought to smack you a good one. Maybe that'd teach you a lesson about screwing around with other people's husbands." Over the wailing of her baby, Mrs. B repeated that the men in her family were short, wide, and blonde. Mrs. A returned home with darkness in her heart.
Beautiful. Thank you, Vicki. Told as only you can tell it. Beautiful. Yeah, the life in those logging camps must have been something else, man. Beautiful. All right. Okay, we're coming to our shared feature readers now. So we are going to be live here at Char's for a little bit. We've got Kathleen, of course, coming up first. And for the regulars, I don't need to tell you much about Kathleen, but for those who don't know, she's a great writer of fiction and nonfiction. In fact, she just won a first prize in the North Shore Writers contest for some of her nonfiction. And she was shortlisted for her fiction in another contest, national contest. And her the book that she co-edited that was a standard English textbook used in many universities and even North Island College here in Port Alberni had a copy. So she is, what shall we say, a woman of letters and a woman of words. And we're really glad to have you here, Kathleen, tonight in the flesh. Take it away.
Oh, okay. Oh, I wanted to show the books because people don't do this. So this is a nonfiction from Demeter Press, Don't Tell Family Secrets. And this is probably the most important work, which is Alberniology.
Yeah.
Yes, which are people in this very room are featured in this book. So go get a copy. All right, so this piece is called Queen of the Railroad Bridge, and I'm going to read it because it was in this contest in Manitoba, and as a result of the contest, which I entered because Derek told me I should enter contests because that was a good thing to do, and as a result of that, it's going to be published in the beginning of May and work with 7 other stories and something called Beyond Boundaries 2. So it's called Queen of the Railroad Bridge. Anne could still hear the voices of the kids she knew. And if she just had the good sense to turn back, she'd be able to see those kids. But she had listened to that other voice that had already been carried off into the wind, a voice she had only heard once before, the voice of the kid who wasn't and maybe hadn't ever been there. I dare you, Ginny had been the first to start the trouble that sealed Anne's fate. I double dare you. Barry always followed Ginny's lead. I double triple dare you. Sally always had to top everyone else. You're not chickening out, are you? Fred grinned. The only time Fred didn't feel like a chicken himself was when he was calling someone else chicken. Anne was no chicken, so she had turned her back on the kids, stopped to listen one more time, and started marching up the middle of the single-track railroad bridge. She knew the freight train only ran 2 or 3 times a day, but she had never paid attention to when it ran. Now Anne prayed that no train would come at that moment, because there wouldn't be enough room on the bridge for both of them. Anne smelled the creosote of the dark wood, her 4th favorite smell in the world after her father's pipe, her great-uncle's cigars, and her mother's perfume. Anne forced herself to walk slowly. She wasn't about to let the kids see her run. She made a show of looking over the low wooden railing, way down to the water below, already black in the late afternoon. That backfired, because when she saw how far down it was, her hands started shaking and her knees started wobbling. If a train came now, Anne would be flattened, just like in the big squeeze last year at school, when Danny at the desk in front of her pushed his chair back, and Lee at the desk behind her pushed his desk forward so that she could hardly breathe. It was like in Superman on TV, when Jimmy Olsen, Lois Lane, and Clark Kent were trapped in a steel-walled room, and the walls started moving closer and closer, and even the ceiling and the floor started moving, and they were almost flattened until Clark Kent turned into Superman. But Superman didn't go to her school, so Anne had banged her fist on the desk, and the teacher had made her stand in the corner for the other kids to laugh at. On that narrow railroad track, she'd be cornered like a rat without even a corner to run to. Like when the teacher followed her down the hall after she left the classroom to switch her milk because she'd been given white instead of chocolate. The teacher had yelled at her and held her by both arms so she couldn't escape. It would serve them right if Anne was squished flat in the tracks by a freight train. Then they'd be sorry for having been so mean to her. Anne knew she had to stop thinking about a freight train coming at her and flattening her. She started to do the times tables in her head, beginning with the 2 times and working up to the harder 7, 8, and 9 times. By the time she got to 9 times 9, the ordeal was over. She stepped off the far end of the bridge, turned round, raised both arms in the air, and shouted to the kids on the other side, "I'm the 1958 Queen of the Railroad Bridge." Home safe, she thought. Oh no, it was just at that moment that it hit her. The railroad bridge was the only way back across the river. She had to walk back across this bridge. So she wasn't safe yet, not by a long shot. As Anne started back, she heard a high-pitched sound, and it was getting louder and louder. Oh no, the train's coming. Anne saw again the horrible, sad look on Leon's face last year when she had told him she couldn't be his friend at school because the other kids said if she was Leon's friend, they wouldn't be her friend. She saw herself standing outside, looking into the window of the empty classroom, where Leon had taken off all his clothes and was dancing in his long winter underwear. The teacher had made Leon stay in during recess because he had fought back when Danny and Lee were teasing him. Anne heard this strange girl, who must have been standing next to her, tell her in a voice she'd never heard before how one day Leon would dance on a big stage in London and in New York. The high-pitched sound got louder. Anne saw herself being made by the teacher to take a photograph of the class. Anne had brought her special camera to school that day, but only to show Ginny and Sally. The teacher had spotted the camera and made Anne take a class picture. There'd been no way out of it. Anne saw herself click on the shutter button and watched the green monster leap out of the camera with its red tongue sticking out at the teacher and all the kids. Being flattened by a train is like drowning, Anne thought. Only instead of her whole life, her whole horrible last year at school was flashing before her eyes, and the high-pitched sound was getting louder. Anne froze. She was still scared to do anything but listen. Suddenly, she started laughing. That's no train. That's Jimmy Campbell playing his stupid bagpipes. His house is somewhere near here. Anne continued walking. She reached the middle of the bridge. Halfway there, she thought. The next sound was so loud that it even drowned out Jimmy's bagpipes. The sound was definitely a train whistle, and it was getting louder. The train started to shake under Anne's feet. The track started to shake. She saw the kids at the other edge of the bridge jumping off the tracks and scramble down the embankment. Then she could actually see the train with its horrible, blinking bright lights. Anne knew in her heart of hearts that even the queen of the railroad bridge was no match for a fast-moving freight train. The train wasn't slowing down. The train driver hadn't even seen her. The whistle was getting louder. Now it was too late for the train to stop. Anne knew the driver had finally seen her because the whistle was starting and stopping over and over again, telling her to get off the track. Anne looked behind her. Could she beat the train if she made a run for it? Suppose she ran forward. Could she just make it to the start of the bridge, dive off the side, and roll down the embankment? No, she couldn't go back, and she couldn't go forward. There was nowhere for her to go. The train kept coming, and the whistle kept getting louder. Anne shut her eyes and put her hands over her ears. Suddenly, someone grabbed her. Open your eyes, quick, over the railing. Are you crazy? It's too high and the water's too deep. I'll break both my legs and then I'll drown. No, there's a tiny ledge all along below the outside of the railing. It's not too far down. Trust me, your foot will find it. Hurry, do what I do. Anne swung one leg over and held onto the railing while she felt for the ledge with her foot. Found it, she called out in relief. Anne swung the other leg over. The ledge was so narrow she had to stand sideways with one foot in front of the other. Get down as low as you can and hold the crisscross part of the railing as tight as you can. The train won't touch you, but if you don't hold on real good, it could blow you away when it goes by. Anne held on as tightly as she could. She remembered the time her father had taken them swimming at the beach where the waves were so gigantic. There was a fixed rope in the water for people to hold on to. Her father had wrapped her arms around that rope and told her to never let go. He had to go get her older brother and sister who had gone out too far and were in trouble. Her father said he would come right back, but he hadn't come back. and an enormous wave had crashed over her and torn her from the rope. The wave had held her under the water, so she couldn't even get her head up to breathe. She couldn't scream, because then she would start swallowing water and drown for sure. She had to just play dead. And so today, Anne held even tighter onto the crisscross of the railing, because this time there would be no sandy beach for the wave to throw her onto, and no nice lifeguard to offer her popcorn and to help her find her mother. But unlike when she was hanging on to the rope in the ocean, this time she was not alone. The other girl was with her somewhere on the ledge, and she was hanging on too. The train noise was so loud her ears hurt. Her arms were so sore from hanging on she couldn't move. Anne closed her eyes. As the freight train rushed by, the wind pulled at her arms. Then the noise of the train started getting lower and quieter. Anne felt pins and needles in her feet and legs, which had gone to sleep from being trapped in one place for so long. But she forced herself to stand up. She looked down one last time into the dark water so far below and lowered her head and chest onto the top of the railing, making sure to lean toward the inside as she swung her legs over and got back onto the railroad track. Anne ran as fast as she could. When she reached the end of the bridge, she dove to the side and rolled down the embankment where the other kids were all waiting, their eyes popping out of their heads. "We thought you were squished by the train." Ginny sounded like she had really been worried. "You shouldn't have done that. That was really stupid." That would be Sally talking. "I don't know what I would have done if that girl hadn't helped me," gasped Anne. "What girl?" Fred never knew what was going on. "We didn't see anybody. You're making stuff up again, Anne." Jerry was always accusing her of something. "There was a girl. She must live on the other side and has gone home. You must have seen her. You're all liars, and you nearly got me killed. Some friends you are." "We didn't make you cross that stupid bridge. You dared me." "Yeah, well, we didn't want to play with you anyway. We've got to go home. The new school year starts tomorrow." The kids all turned their backs on Anne and headed across the fields. Anne just stood there looking at the kids and then started walking back down the railroad track. She could still hear Jimmy's bagpipes, and to Anne, they sounded sad.
Wow, thank you, Kathleen. That should have won that contest, not just been runner-up. I mean, come on. That was brilliant. You have such a gift for taking us into the child's world and into the child's mind, and just I don't know about others, but for me it just pings so many childhood memories of my own and the way of looking at the world that you just forget about as you get older. And I just love that story. That's such great tension, and yeah, it's got all the elements. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. All right, we're going to have David come up now and share a story with us. And for those of you who don't know about David, he's got a very colorful, shall we say, background. He's been involved in auto racing. He taught at a college for like over 30 years. And he's a brilliant writer. And his stories have, well, what can I say? Let's just listen to one and then we'll talk about it. Thank you, David, for coming to share your work in person. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I wish I was a musician. Mr. Bukowski, she called. Annie Chow had backed her van cautiously right against the fence in the hall's parking lot and had leaned out of her open window to greet the old man. She fought the stiff handbrake, slid to the ground, swung her trombone case roughly over one thin shoulder, and grunted as she kicked her door shut. "How are you today, Mr. Bukowski?" The man nodded cautiously, watching her struggle. Jak Lesli, he replied softly. Jak Lesli, you practicing today? Yes, she paused, then sighed and hardened her jaw. I guess. A double hoot made them both turn as Ibrahim's station wagon swerved into the lot and lurched to a halt on the gravel. The old Pontiac's wide doors swung open in the sun. Ibrahim and John and Ingrid retrieved their instruments from the back, while Sledge clambered out and jogged up and down, shaking his wrists, impatient. The parking lot slept on, and a stained sofa sagged on its back. Dumpers, muttered Mr. Bukowski, pointing. Dumpers, last night, and shook his head. But the steps up to the steel double door of the old Polish social club were spotless as usual, and at Annie's touch the heavy doors swung silently open on greased hinges. Annie smelled the disinfectant and cleaning fluid on Mr. Bukowski's pressed overalls and shook her head. Don't you ever rest, Mr. Bukowski? Sledge stalked across to a closet and unlocked it to retrieve his sprawling drum kit. His grandparents, as founding members, had called on the club's sympathy for Sledge and the size and complexity of his awkward drum kit. Ingrid swung her keyboard's legs down with a double click and plugged its power cable into the adapter she shared with John's electric bass. Annie Chow touched the trombone against her bare neck and puffed tentatively into the mouthpiece. She and her horn were stiff and cold this morning. She clenched her teeth and fired a hard, discordant note to ricochet off the far wall, where a Polish eagle banner hung above a line of framed memorial portraits. Mr. Bukowski paused with his dustpan and looked across at the familiar faces of his own people and curiously at Annie. No, I didn't mean anything, Mr. Bukowski, she said, and shook her head. Bit by bit, the players arranged themselves into their trusted nomadic semicircle around the campfire of Sledge's drums. At the unlit back of the hall, Mr. Bukowski abandoned his dustpan and pretended some chairs and tables needing straightening so that he could watch. Ingrid held up an imperious finger in its black glove, and they waited. With the other hand, she drew a stately 5-note sequence from the electric piano, then repeated it. They followed her musical steps into a solemn walk, but this morning Annie hesitated, the trombone still as stiff as her heart. 1, 2, 3, 4. She blew, and her notes stumbled awkwardly after the stately march, struggling to find a place in the music. Now Ibrahim's baritone sax began bellowing his homeland's suffering, and the band marched with him down dusty African township streets and across scorching city squares, calling to a people to dance their grief and anger. Ibrahim played for real, and the band knew it. Sad or laughing or plain angry, Ibrahim spoke only the truth, straight from his horn, and wasted no time on lectures. Bass-fingered John would sometimes throw in joke notes to lighten a mood. Ibrahim never. Last Saturday here, John had briefly mimicked a cocktail jazz phrase as they ended a powerful piece, and Ibrahim had blown up. You doing, man? You fuck about, John, you play someone else. Today, the morning sun migrated across the cracked floorboards. From somewhere behind the stage, Mr. Bukowski could be heard stacking cardboard boxes. Slowly, Annie's trombone warmed itself, and her heart began to soften. One sad slide, a dying note at the end of a solo, almost pulled her to her knees. At noon, they broke and opened their flasks and sandwich bags. Ibrahim walked out onto the steps and stretched tall and took in the pale sun. Mr. Bukowski joined him for a smoke in mutual silence. Traffic droned quietly behind the line of trees, and farther out on the flaccid sea, a gravel barge limped low in the water, belly down. Annie excused herself past the two men, and with hunched shoulders, she walked quickly to her van and back. Left my phone, she murmured, avoiding their eyes, and tiptoed back into the hall. Mr. Bukowski looked after her and shook his head. Young lady down in the dumps. He looked up at Ibrahim's impassive face. Ibrahim looked back. Somebody ill, die perhaps. Later, the band was working on Now Is the Time, a lively ska jazz piece that had got on Annie's nerves today. But their surreptitious glances at the clock showed they had all done as much as they could today without going stale. They looked at Ibrahim from completion. He sat and reached into his case for his cleaning kit, then shook his head. I want to play one more thing, but we can't play it here. It has to be outside. It has to be, he frowned, over on the beach. He looked at his watch. 15 minutes? Can you give me 15? They looked at each other and shrugged. Sure, said Ingrid, but what about all the kit? Ibrahim smiled. No kit, just Annie and me. We're going to blow, but I want you all to be there. I need that. Annie had been on the verge of pulling her trombone apart, and she frowned at Ibrahim. His eyes were bottomless. Please, Annie, it won't work without you. They ducked across the road to the beach. Despite the sun, a cool breeze came off the sea, and the walkers were keeping to the promenade. Ibrahim led them to a sheltered spot among tumbled logs. You guys, you don't know this. Just listen, whatever, but no stupid stuff, okay? Find the mood. Don't mess with me now. He looked at his sacks and wet his lips. I had a sister in Zimbabwe, in Kwekwe, older than me. She looked after me when I was a kid. Stupid kid, okay? I ask the ancestors to look after her. We do some moves when we remember someone is gone, yeah? Annie, you help me remember my sister. Annie threw a terrified look at the others, who were standing awkwardly on the logs. Ingrid scooped some pebbles and cupped them in her hands. Nobody spoke. Annie turned her back on the promenade and the town and pressed her rigid face into the wind. Ibrahim choked on a slow, hoarse cry and then put the saxophone to his lips. His barrage of climbing notes interrogated the wind and the sea, as though asking the way, as though calling at a closed door. Then his notes deepened, and they all sensed a slow dance. The back of Annie's neck prickled, and she swung up her trombone and fought off the funeral feeling. It was a grieving dance, and it kept calling to her while she tried to push it away with challenging blasts. Behind her, pebbles and sticks began to click rhythmically, like desert thorn bushes, as though Ibrahim and Annie were clambering through them to reach a clearing so that they could dance their sadness. Annie's eyes were tight with the effort of resisting the grief in Ibrahim's saxophone. Then Ibrahim's tones softened to a lullaby. His eyes were wide, but he was not looking here, not at this northern sea. He swiveled his head to Annie for a plea. She gave in and joined him with her own matching lullaby, and through her trombone released what she'd been unable to say. She emptied everything through the horn, washed the pebbles and the sea, and spoke on behalf of Ibrahim's sister, and now, at long last, for her own young sister, whose illness Annie had never mentioned, but who now deserved a song of goodbye. She and Ibrahim played on until they turned slowly to face each other fully, and their shared experience told them when to raise an eyebrow and lower the curtain of sound to a dying breath and silence. Annie hid her streaming face and lashed out with a foot to kick a pebble at the trembling salt waves. Ibrahim reached and touched Annie's slide hand. Then he turned and laughed at the others. Thank you, guys. For Monday's gig, maybe you bring rocks and sticks too. He paused again and looked shyly at them. I didn't tell you guys about my family before, my sister. Sledge picked his way back to the promenade alongside Annie, over the solemn pebbles and seaweed, until they reached the concrete steps. Sledge glanced sideways, wide-eyed. Annie, he murmured, wow. The waves were waking up under a freshening breeze, and the distant gravel barge and its tug were kicking spray round a far headland. Outside the Polish hall, while Ibrahim's wagon was loaded, Annie climbed slowly up into her van. She watched as the big Pontiac reversed clumsily away from her and onto the gravel shoulder. The driver's window dipped, and Ibrahim lowered his sunglasses and inclined his face towards her. Annie returned his gaze, nodded, and raised her fingers from the wheel just a little.
Wow.
Wow, wow, wow. David, that was, please come back to the podium. That was an amazing story. And what a testament to the power of art and artistic community to carry us through difficult times, no matter when they've happened in our lives, right? And the grief we carry. That was beautiful. I mean, is that based on anything in your own life, or is that just?
I don't know. I wish I was a musician. I took drum lessons for 6 years. And at the end, my tutor, who was a brilliant drummer, said kind of, well, David, it's been, I hope you have enjoyed it. And whatever career you wish to follow, I hope. But in fact, I heard this from other people, from all kinds of people in sports, but in drumming, he teaches all kinds of adults and kids. And he said very often, he has 2 drum kits and they sit down and play. He said, usually within 3 minutes, I know what's going on in the kid's life.
Wow.
He said, it's there.
Yeah.
But I use the word kid, but they won't tell you,
Mm-hmm.
they won't tell you, but you hear a couple of minutes of drumming and you know how things are. So
Wow.
I think that's why I say I wish I
Yeah.
was a musician.
Yeah. I share your wishes.
And,
Played violin for 3 years. I tortured people for 3
yeah,
years listening to me practice.
brave to do it. And yeah, and I used to listen a lot to some jazz, in Britain and Europe, some jazz combos, and South African musicians were made much more welcome in Europe than they were in Africa. And but that's it. And the setting is actually Davis Bay on the Sunshine Coast. I imagined, I called it the Polish Social Hall. I don't know, but I invented that, but the rest of it is physically there.
Yeah.
So that's what that's it. Yes, I wish I was a musician.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that, David. That was awesome. Sure. Maybe we'll get Kathleen and David to both pop up to the podium just for a moment. We want to get you both on the camera here. Yeah, say hello, all the Zoomers out there. There they are. All right.
We understand.
Beautiful. Then we can get big waves from everybody.
Anybody have a question out there?
Awesome.
Question and more questions.
Yeah,
There's Chris and Nico. Hello.
yeah. Yeah, so anyone out there in Zoom land want to share anything with Kathleen and David, please unmute and go ahead. That'd be great. Just say hi, whatever.
They remain mute. My family remains mute.
You gotta unmute yourself there, Chris. Your son wants to say something.
Yeah, that's my son and grandson.
Wow, beautiful.
So
And don't forget your best friend who just.
Oh yeah,
loved-
don't forget my best friend. I zoomed in all the way from Germany in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
And it was just wonderful. I'm so glad you finally read an entire story. It was fascinating from the beginning to the end.
For me, big thanks to Derek and Char and everyone.
Yes.
If it wasn't for that, nothing would get, I wouldn't be writing. So I have to have.
Well,
Yes.
thank you. Yeah. Yeah, it's a lonely occupation, and and doing it on our own at home, and and we get all excited about it, but then if we don't share it, what's the point? So it's
People that don't hear it
yeah.
makes you really, you can do a bit of writing, it seems pretty good. And then you think there's going to be all these people hearing it. Ooh, I better, clarify, shorten words, from whatever. There's a whole other level
Yeah.
that you start to do to it because, other people are going to read it or hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's about that connection,
Yeah.
and I mean, I think your idea, Derek, about the contest, I thought, the one I entered, I thought, oh, I really like this piece. I'm going to force someone to read it. And if you enter a contest, they'll have to.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And it's believing in your work, right? To do that, right? To say, I believe in it enough that I'm going to put it out there and for someone to read it. Damn it, look at this, right? I put a lot into this. And yeah, it's both of those stories are just fantastic stories. So yeah, it was amazing.
And I have to say, like, if you don't win one, you send it to the next.
Yeah.
Because you don't know. Like, I had one, the nonfiction piece, and I thought, I want to, I really want this out there. So I sent it another one, and then it won.
Yeah.
And they sent me the judge's statement of it.
Mhm.
And that was even better because I thought the judge understood the story.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I thought, because that's not always true, right?
Yeah. And you speak to something that's so true about publishing, period, right? That
Yeah.
that it's not necessarily that your piece isn't good. It's just that reader on the other end either isn't on the same wavelength, doesn't like that kind of fiction or whatever it is. So yeah, you get it back, you send it back out again. As Jack Hodgins used to say, he would have the next manila envelope addressed already. So when it came in, it went out and went in and it went back out in the old days of just using the post. So yeah, you have to believe in your work and put it out there. That's all there is to it. And yeah, great things happen.
But
I just want to say, if I could, I love you guys' bits. Every Electric Mermaid, I always enjoy it. And you just put us right in there, and you're just following along with whatever's happening. And I just think you guys are terrific, and I so enjoyed both these pieces today. So thank you so much. And I don't usually, it takes me a long time before I do this kind of thing, so it's a big deal. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, fabulous. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Derek. I mean, every time I hear Derek each month, I think, my God, he must have been a fantastic teacher. Because I can hear that, I thought how hard it is to think on your feet that fast and respond to somebody's writing authentically. And he does it like whatever we throw at him at Electric Mermaid. And it's just astounding, Derek. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Kathleen. Thank you. Yeah, we are blessed to have this community, I think, and inspire each other. And I feel blessed every month to be part of it. So it's a joint thing. It's all of us together. Fabulous. All right, we are going to go to London, Ontario, where hopefully they got those trains put out. And
I wondered if you heard about that. Yeah, the roll.
it was all over the news. I watched the video, man. That was like downtown, and these rail cars are just flaming up there.
Oh, it rolled through the west side of town and got all the way to the downtown area before the firefighters intercepted it. I don't think that the train crew, of course, it's way back from the engine, so I don't think they knew what was going on for a while.
Yeah.
Even when they did, those things take a while to get stopped, and so yeah, you can see the videos. And I know crossing, on Oxford Street,
Yeah.
a bit west of Wonderland, and there it is,
Yeah.
rolling along, a flame. Oh boy,
Unbelievable. Yeah.
Maybe I'll write about it. It feels like there's an image there for something, but I don't know.
Absolutely. There's got to be a poem in that one. We just let it, gestate for a while. It'll come out.
I'll have to.
What are you going to share tonight, Jennifer?
Couple of poems. The first one is a relatively newish. It was published in the online journal Cinerasis fairly recently. It's called Crickets. Waiting and listening for an unforthcoming answer, for an overdue ovation, for an absent voice, with only crickets to be heard, meaning nothing. Hence, an implied equation, cricket equals 0. But why? When did song get taken for granted, exuberant existence fade into a cipher? For you are there, untiring continuo on otherwise hushed summer evenings, needing quiet to be heard. Cold science points to calls for a mate, warnings to competitors, signals of danger, post-concupiscent triumph. But peace, attend once again, and find eagerness to chirp along when all else demurs, wings stridulating the night away, and faithful application to mission, joy and need in expression. So sing, and may we truly hear.
Yeah. Here, here.
The next one, the second one, longer one, will be from the book Here Through the Silence. And while I think of it, I go along with Kathleen's theory of submitting things. I do the same thing with book manuscripts. I've got one out there to about 5 different places, and the theory is I don't think any of them are going to publish it, but hey, I'll force one more person to read it. We'll see. What I'm going to do is one of the sections from the longer piece called Bernardo Boy that I've done before. If you've heard it, you may recall that it focuses on my grandfather and his story, his family story, my search for it. He was the one that it was complicated, but he was adopted at birth and then wound up in an orphanage and then shipped to Canada. And then, his family story was another whole thing altogether and took a long time to figure it out. So I'm doing section 4, and this is about the meeting of his parents, Albert and Molly. You'll hear them. Albert father, Molly mother, and my grandfather makes his appearance towards the end. And it starts with his father's family. That's where we begin, and you'll hear, I think, how it goes. Observe a working couple, Henry and Eleanor Mays, and their modest Grimsby house, Eleanor's charge, not far from docks and Henry's establishment. Home also to their son Albert when on shore, Albert's 3 siblings and his 2 little boys. Observe this bustling household welcome a new guest, Molly, Eleanor's friend across a generation, come from Yarmouth to be a herring splitter, gut and cut close down the backbone, preserve the skin to keep it in one piece, thread through the gill onto the spreet for the smokehouse, fast, precise, painstaking, 12 hours a day, some extra on Saturday, the money good, desires seemingly achieved. Out beyond the played-out North Sea, an early steam trawler held together by cement, iron, rust, and God's will heaves up and hammers down. Albert and the rest wind out 1,000 fathoms or more of steel warp towing the trawl and steam winch it back to unload the whitefish catch scraped off the bottom, day in and out to fill the hold. Arduous, demanding, well paid, hazard lurking in every wave, but Albert fully alive, or so he thought. Came the day when Molly beheld on the threshold, sandy-haired, proudly bearing the maize nose, twinkling eyes and a knowing smile, an unknowingly long-awaited figure, freshly released by the deep waters. Came the day when Albert beheld the maize new boarder, quite tall, medium dark hair, not conventionally pretty, but alight with a humor and fire that glowed around her smile's corners, an answer to an unasked question. Came the day when embers blazed forth, consuming consideration and duty, consuming convention, expectation, and practicality, roaring on despite spouses and children, despite a shared crowded abode, enduring a consequently chilled friendship, enduring little Albert Jr.'s tragic passing, melded and fused into a burgeoning new life, incarnated September 14th, 1909, a new life named Harold Mays Wenn. Hovering in the birth room, unbanished ghosts, duty, practicality, convention, expectation, specters given full-throated voice by Henry and Eleanor and only cast out by a haunting, momentous decision. The verdict? Shatter the nascent family. Albert once more into the arms of the ocean, Molly back to beckoning Yarmouth, baby Harold and a sacred mission entrusted to friends through the Grimsby fishery, entrusted to Susanna and Frederick, living 3/4 of a mile away by foot, other side of the Haven waterway, now become a gaping chasm. Thank you.
Always beautiful storytelling in your work, Jen. I love it. And we see these people and their lives together and apart. and the result goes on, and here you are.
Yeah, and some years later they got back together 3 years after that, and then lived the rest of their lives as man and wife.
Wow. Wow. Crazy world. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing those tonight. Great as always. Okay. All right. We're going to come back live in house now. And we've got NVV Victory is our next open micer. All right. Back for some more. Good to see you. How are you doing?
As well, yeah, doing well. Thanks for
Good.
being here.
Good.
I got inspired through the last one. Somebody in Zoomland or here perhaps read some theater. So I have a show that I've written, and I'd love to share some of it with you today if you'd like to hear.
Just get a little closer to the mic there.
right.
That's good. Yeah. Perfect.
Okay, so I have a show called Search for the Magical Spatula. And we join our hero, Randy, his sidekick Baby Steps, and Chule, the ephemeral source of love, after they had just defeated a cursed toaster. So we start with Randy. I'm not sure if I can go on like this. Baby Steps. Oh, sure you can, you silly sea slug. You're doing great. We just defeated a bone-crushing monster, and you know what that means. No, I don't. Oh, come on, Randiddly. Everyone knows that when you defeat a cursed toaster, they grant you a wish. What? Since when? Since like forever. And maybe even before that. Chula, maybe even. We're getting closer every minute, and now you get to make a wish that could give us the upper hand. Oh, well, I don't know. Come on, Randy. This is great grapes for us. What are you going to wish for? Here in this dark hour, there are so many things that could change our whole trajectory for the better, saving us for the... I wish for a hat. What? Yeah, a cool hat. I think that a hat will help me rise up and be the hero that I really am. Oh, for crying out loud. Are you sure that is what you really need right now, Randy? Yep. I need a hat to look good while I feel bad. Okay, I guess. Does anybody see a hat that maybe we could use to help our poor Randy over here? Oh,
Over
perfect.
there.
Here we go, Randy. Oh, yeah. Now I feel cooler and more courageous than ever before. All right, great job, Randy. Yep, looking good is the first step to feeling good. Oh, it's really not. Yep, and you look great. Let's keep looking for that spatula. I've renewed optimism that we will succeed. Keep going. We can do it. Oh, it's hopeless. What? No, this is impossible. There's no way we're ever going to find my spatula ever again. Although the hat is nice, Randy, you're going to need some more tools if you want to succeed. Like what? Well, for starters, belief. You have to find belief in yourself so you can keep going with or without your hat. Oh, yeah, my hat. I miss my hat. Randy, believe. How are we going to find belief at a time like this? It's belief, Randy. It's easy. You just have to believe. I believed in my hat. Now it's gone. Gone forever. It's not gone. It's right there. No. Once something has fallen, it can never get up again. Randy, that's definitely not the way of things, Randazzler. Falling is an important part of being up. And the most important step to getting up after you fall is believing you can get up again. No. Like my poor hat, fallen and forgotten, I will lie again in the waste of my existence and wait until my body crumbles back into the cruel earth from whence it came. Oh no, this is bad. Baby steps. Here, Randy. I believe. Ah. Wow. I guess Randy really does need a hat. Yes, I believe I do. All right, let's keep looking. I will keep looking good in my hat. Yes, Randy. Come on. I think Harm Money, the notorious criminal mastermind, went this way.
That was awesome. Awesome dialogue and great drama there. And that's got huge potential. I could see that as like a video play going on. Just totally. Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Thanks for sharing that. Sweet. All right. And where are we going? Oh, we're going to go to Qualicum Beach now. And Mark is going to warm our hearts with a little more music.
I keep on changing. Okay, here, unmute myself. I think I've done it. You can hear me?
You're unmuted. We can hear you. And you can on tuning and we'll tune in.
I keep on changing my mind here, so we'll see how this goes. All right, here we go. There's a flower in the garden. It's climbing to the sun in a long line of circumstance to do what must be done. Shining for a moment, that's just its way. Then the colors soften and fade away. Life takes hold everywhere in the darkness and light. Among the twists and turns, some go left, some go right. To each its own, I suppose. Whatever grows, grows. And so it goes. She was in the library with a faraway look, a girl with a notepad surrounded by her books. I sat across the table, nothing else to do, in that land of imagination where everything is new. She said these stories are like butterflies pinned to the page. They live in the possibility of whimsy set ablaze. Oh, I love it here. See their wings catch the air, and so it goes. I saw him at the laundromat. I was sorting through the past, starting out black and white, blend into gray and overcast. I don't go in there often, who knows why today. Funny thing about habits, when they start, who's to say? He said these machines are like waves pushing at the shore. They seem like just one thing and nothing more. But you can never do just one thing, always, always rippling, and so it goes. Now the sunshine warms my back as I find my way through this overgrown pathway, both familiar and new. Everyone has their own story, I suppose I do too. Maybe someday mine will lead to you. Love takes hold everywhere in the darkness and light. Among the twists and turns, some go left, some go right. To each its own, I know. Whatever grows, grows. And so it goes.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
All right. Oh,
Thank you so much, Mark. That was gorgeous as always. And you know, reminds me of how, you know, the world is just full of story opportunities and, you know, poem opportunities and song opportunities. And as artists, that's what we look for. And you find them in wonderful places in the smallest things. And how that enriches your life and enriches our life. And so, yeah, that was great. Thank you for sharing that.
no, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you.
Look forward to you every month, man.
All right, super.
And just a reminder, you can get more of Mark's music at markwonneckmusic.com. And we got it in the chat here. And if anybody wants to know the spelling on that, if you can't see it on the screen, just come see Karl. He'll tell you. Okay. All right. We're going to come back in-house now. And Victoria Roscoe Roumanis is going to share some work with us. And yes, big hand for Victoria. Hello.
Maybe a bit higher. Yes. Yeah.
So good to have Kyle back doing this mic job. He's a
Yeah.
pro at it. And
That's perfect.
Char gets to catch her breath in
Thank you.
between.
And actually, somebody mentioned, well, anyway, it was mentioned earlier about you being a good teacher. And actually, when I was in a writers group, when I first started in a writers group, and it's many, many years ago, we invited Derek to come to our meeting. And it was the very first time I read my poem out loud with a group of people. So it was amazing.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
thank you, Derek. Derek had lots of compliments to say and lots of encouragement. So I guess I've continued. Thank you, Derek. So just recently, well, actually for the last, I don't know, several months, that writer's block has been very real. I did read once at the beginning of when I first came back, and I read some of my old poems. But so I thought, I've just got to make myself right. And so I came up with this in relation to writer's block. It's called Power Outage. Words. Where are the words? Electric current gone. Have I blown a fuse? Several months have passed and the battery is still dead. No spark to ignite my words. Perhaps it is the LED lights. Maybe it is something I should be eating. Or it could just be global warming. Hopefully, normal service will be resumed as soon as possible. These words may be the jump start required. Well, perhaps they were, because I wrote this about over a week ago. And on Friday, I heard on the Current, I don't know if any of you listened to the Current in the morning, but they were talking about large people being criticized or made fun of because of their size. And there's often programs on that. And I thought, and I identified very strongly with what they were saying, but there's never programs or documentaries about the other side of that scale. So I wrote to the Current on Friday afternoon. Good morning. Actually, it was Friday afternoon. It must have been Friday morning. Right after the program. Good morning. I fully understand the feelings of your guests on this morning's program relating to people of a larger size. I can certainly identify with their emotions. Perhaps people do not realize the emotional and hurtful effects of their comments regarding a person's size. For me, I have the other end of an extreme size. I'm 5 foot tall and have never been much heavier than 100 pounds. Many people never think twice about commenting on my size, even when I first meet them. Comments such as, "Oh, you're so small," or "tiny," or "little." Due to comments like this, my self-confidence has been impacted over the years. Yes, I would like to be taller and perhaps a little more rounded. But like everyone else on this earth, we are what we are. Small, tall, large. Sometimes I think people do not consider the impact of their disturbing comments on the smaller, thinner people, and they seem to feel more comfortable doing so. I would never say, "You are fat," to a larger person. This would be very rude. We're all trying to do the best we can on this earth with what we have. I'm hoping that if you follow up informing your listeners of the effect of their comments on smaller people, the world, I'm not reading now, I can't see it. I'm going to start that again. I'm hoping that if you follow up informing your listeners of the effect of their comments on smaller people, this would also help them to understand the impact of their harmful words and think before they speak. And I said, thank you very much for reading this. I do enjoy your program. Well, I listened on Monday and they didn't read it. And so I thought, okay, I didn't think they probably would. I got a call on Tuesday from a friend and said, "Did you write a letter to the Current?" I heard it this morning. So they read it. I don't know if there's any more comments to be made, but I thought I would just finish up with one of my old poems when things seem to float. But actually it's old, but I've renovated it actually, for want of a better word. Sounds of the past, the Mars water bombers. The sound of the Mars water bomber engines resonated and bounced from mountain to mountain around the lake like giant bees on a mission. They scooped up water to fill the hold, then forward throttle, lifting heavy red wings skyward, barely clearing surrounding forest, taking off to douse the fires somewhere not too far away. Then silence, quickly broken moments later by the sound of these super birds, repeating their drill again and again. On the last flyby, the hatches opened and the liquid cargo was dropped over Dog Mountain, signifying a job well done. The fire was out Our security team headed back to base. Another success story to tell. We who remember will now tell their stories. We will miss them.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
And to let you know how close I was, I lived on the lake and they used to come by my house down towards Battleship Island almost every day. And I think anybody who lived at the lake, we never lost interest. It didn't matter what we were doing or how often you saw them. We'd rush out onto the balcony and watch the water bombers go by and take off.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Beautiful. Thank you, Victoria. And I don't know if you've ever heard that age-old advice about when you get writer's block, just lower your standards. That's all you gotta do. No, not at all. But kudos to your discipline to push through. That's what you have to do. You just have to say, I'm just going to write and let it be and just do it. Awesome. Okay, we're shooting over to Denman Island now, and Peter Paul Van Camp is ready to share some more of his verse. They're going to wet his whistle first and get his silver tongue in best form. Good evening, Peter. How are you?
Well, Derek, I'm enjoying a little poor health, as we say at the moment. A touch of the vertigo.
Oh, dear.
It comes and goes. Right now, it's come back. So, and this will be interesting. I've got two poems prepared though, and they're pretty new. I've never read them anywhere. But just before I start, I'd like to mention that last week but one, I passed Francesco Petrarca on the all-time reading list of poets who read their poems in the public. He was stuck at 2153, and this was my 2158, and I'm coming up pretty closely on Quintus Smyrnaeus, a Greek poet who was active in the 4th century, although it's said that many of his early recitals were given for the sheep which he was tending, but he counted them nonetheless. I've never read Sheep, but I might try it if I find that I'm lacking a better audience. Anyway, I feel that I have one here. I'd like to read this now for you. I hot off the griddle, as we say, and I was looking at the famous painting American Gothic by Grant Wood. Everyone's seen it, so I don't have to describe it. And this is a piece called "I Was Grant Wood's Dentist." You see, because the models he chose for the people in the portrait were his dentist, who was the old man with the pitchfork, and his sister, who was portraying the old man's daughter. So I was Grant Wood's dentist. The painting seemed to have changed his life. Time was, I had that painter fella at my mercy. Laid right down in the chair, mouth mirror on his cavities, scaler, scraping the gum line, getting that tartar. Plaque? Oh, he had plenty. Not a flosser, Mr. Wood. Oh, I had him but good. When I said, rinse, please, he rinsed. One day, though, we're finishing up his 6 months cleaning, and I'm coming round to suggesting a root canal on his number 23 incisor. When Mr. Wood says right out, I have a picture in mind, Doc, and I'm hoping you'll sit for me. Can you hold a pose? Come to think of it, I have you standing up, right next to my sister, in fact. Well, sir, I always held I am nobody's fool. But pride goeth before a fall, so they say. Vanity of vanity, saith the preacher. All is vanity. And I allowed myself to be sketched and painted in and put in that frame out front of that house. And now, for the rest of my days, every place I go, I get a sidewise look from some stranger, a sneaking, toothy gawk, and a snicker. And I tell you, I don't need that. Nobody does. What's more, I never wore bib overalls in my life, nor held any pitchfork. What I am is a medical man and a blame fool. Byron Henry McKeeby, DDS. All right, so that's been read once. The world has heard it, and now here's one that this is a reconstruction of a story which my great uncle Neville told me. He said to me, "Write this down, and then read it back to me. See if it flies." Well, I didn't have any. I had a pencil, but I didn't have any more paper than a matchbook cover that was laying on the table. So I scribbled down as much as I could. Very little of it fit. So this is a reconstruction from memory, many years after the fact. Has no title, but probably doesn't need one. I hadn't ought to left the hay. I should have stood in bed that day, but daylight came, then 8, then 9, and Ma had hollered, "Rise and shine." So I got up, gaped, stretched, rolled my shoulders, craned my neck this way and that to see where my sore spots was at. But if I'd a lollygagged till 10, I might have still been snoozing when the doggone apple cart upset. Hadn't been up 5 minutes yet, then... Now, some say I'm to blame but they weren't even there. I was. Anyways, what I should have done instead was pull the covers over my head, go back to sleep, and never budge, even if Maud come up and nudged me with the broomstick saying, "Up you, get." I could have made out I was sick or just out cold. But I didn't, did I? Over I rolled, turned out real quick and way too soon. I could have sprawled around till noon and missed it all, the whole shebang. I'll tell the world and all the gang that heard the story. All I'll say is that I'm sorry I was such an early bird. Won't happen again. You got my word. Now, obviously, something happened in the middle there, but I can't remember what it was, so I just had to skip over that part. But it must have been something awfully drastic. Maybe it'll come back to me one day. But in the meantime, that's Uncle Neville's account of what happened, maybe, somewhere, sometime, or didn't. Hard to say.
Oh, you kill me.
Oh, I
That was
didn't mean to.
very funny. Okay, thank you so much for that matchbook poem. I mean, that was a very long poem for a matchbook, but
Well, as I say, only 3 or 4 words actually fit in amongst the printing that was already there. So,
yeah. All right. Okay, thank you very much, Peter. Enjoyed that.
hey,
All right. We're coming back in-house now, and Joel Lunchbucket is going to come up. There he is. And share some philosophy with us this evening. We're all in the mood for a little politics and a little philosophy and a few rhetorical questions. I found myself writing a poem the other day, and I kept putting these rhetorical questions in there, and I thought of you, Bob. I thought, he's having an influence on me.
Okay, everybody can hear?
I think we're okay out there in Zoom land. Everybody here okay?
Yep.
Yeah, we're getting thumbs up and nods. All good.
I wasn't bright and never got a university degree, but was genetically blessed with body beautiful and modesty. It's been nigh 30 years of stability since my independence I traded away. Saddled with duty and responsibility, no time to stray, nor marriage vows betray. No chance to sample life's wild side buffet. When I see an addict right after his fix, eyes glazed in ecstasy to the nth degree, I wonder if my spouse got her kicks on the challenge in me that she did see. Had she met a good man, where would I be? Could that lonely, sad-sought alky be me? We only get as much misfortune as the Lord decree. And I beat my least likely to succeed in marriage prophecy. Loss of freedom, chained to one wife, By Hollywood standards, it's a curse. My best friend's comment was honest but terse. She stepped down, you would have fared worse.
Thank you. That was refreshing and entertaining and well done. Good work on that. Good scansion in there. And yeah, excellent. Excellent. You surprise me all the time. Okay. Dan Biggs is in house now and he's going to share, I'm guessing, some more of the novel that he's working on. Maybe, maybe not.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Yeah, this is from the novel I've been working on. So it's kind of self-explanatory once I get into it. Can you hear me good now?
Got to get that mic just a little bit closer there, Dan. Yeah, that's good.
How's that?
That's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just keep your head there. Crane it.
Okay. The stress of the waves in the ship hull, the sails her ears with vibrating creaks and their jittering creaks.
A little closer to the mic. Sorry, Dan.
How's like that? How's this?
That's great there. Yeah.
Okay. The stress of the waves in the ship's hulls, the sails her ears with vibrating groans and the jittering creaks of straining metal. Blankly stares at the wall and the lines of rivets holding the plates together. Lines of bumps and more bumps, straight, even, symmetrical, conforming. Those rivets will pop through the cracked paint. They will pop free and shoot across the room. This room of metal, your cabin, miss. No cabin she'd imagined. All of metal, smelling like burnt sugar. Walls weeping with rusty dew. Floor humped and hollowed. Ceiling beamed in iron. Even the bed frame metal. Except a bureau and a rug. The rug is worn and gray, blotched with grime, remnants of blue visible in the folds of the chaff batting. It was nice once, bolted to the wall, the bureau swollen and stained. Uneven, the drawers close, but do not close. Doors open, but do not close. Like the bed, it protests every roll of the waves, not with the strains of springs and grinding metal, but with a grating screech of wood. She hopes one of the rivets bursts free, rockets a course through the damp air and pierces her heart and sets her free to rejoin him. Aloft together they watch all the rivets pop off. Disembodied, the plates give way, the sea rushes in, taking the whole lot down to the cold darkness. A finger's length from her head, the sea splashes on the hull, like fire, like water in a bucket carried in in haste to a fire. She lays fetal curled, fully clothed, mummied in a woolen blanket, sodden with the sweet stink of coal. Her cheeks crusted in dried tears, she clenches her eyelids and sees his face. Perfect, narrow and sad, or unsure, full and round when smiling.
Closer to the mic there, Dan.
Sorry. Wavy dark hair, sapphire eyes, peppermint on his breath, the damp touch of his lips. William Gibson, Billy, not approved of, a Catholic. Not of our church. Foolish girl. How foolish. Isn't it the same Bible? Isn't Jesus, Jesus? An escape thwarted, a life thwarted, love thwarted, family thwarted. Damn you, mother and father. Did he see her? Face fading pale, ghostly white. Was she the last thing he saw? She wanted it to be true. Of course he is with God. We did not sin. We loved each other. He told me and I told him. Why does God need marriage? God only needs love. Only they need marriage. Marriage without love, one day hoping to find it, hoping to grow into it, hoping never comes. Never knowing true love, no joy. God made everything. Why does God need a church? Only they need a church. You had your chance. Deacon LaPointe's son was very interested. Too old, only a few years, tried 12. He owns land and a house. Older men are established and stabled, with no dreams or abandoned dreams, and a cabin made of logs, fated to be in a cabin, will have nothing to do with you now. She peers over the blanket's edge to the floor at Mother's letter crumpled, to the floor at Mother's crumpled letter that waited for her in this metal cavity, made an example of, an example to her sisters and every woman who dares to choose, sent away to have Billy's baby in secret. The nuns will take care of you and see that the child gets a good home. Lies. There is no nunnery, no orphanage, and she will not be coming home when it is over. In the crumples of the letter, praise the Lord, she will be wed after all. To whom? Remember your father's cousin, Henry? You met him 2 summers ago at the reunion. He's much younger than your father. Old, older by more than 12. If he's so grand, why is he looking for a wife at his age? Owns a sawmill and a nice house. She can throw herself overboard. Never make it there. Find something heavy to put in her pockets. Make it quick. Why was she lied to? They feared she would run away again, rather than be wed to an old man. How could you do this, selfish girl? You had a duty to the family. Her mind effortlessly drifts back to Billy in the library. Saturday afternoons in the library. Her sanctuary, row after row of books to build and nurture curiosity. Love, stories of love and mystery, truth and fable, the long span of history. It was the day with the horse and the pictures from China. Marie's handbook for travelers. Marvelous, the world on paper in black and white. Just turn the page. How I'd love to go there. Paris, the Eiffel Tower, Rome, London. Through the window, she hears curses, the snap of a whip, whinnies. Such language. A horse? Through the second floor window, she sees that the driving rains of yesterday have turned their street to mud, and the poor horse cannot move, let alone pull a wagon full of lumber. The man on the wagon whips the horse again and again. The poor thing can't even get off the street. It's blocked in by the fence in the storefront. The horse, misty breath courses through flared nostrils. He needs to stop whipping. He needs to stop. The poor house, he's bleeding. The window is stuck. Stop that. You must stop. Please stop. Amazing. I've never seen these. Look at all the autos. She turns to see a young man with black hair peering into the travel light. He looked up and smiled. Sorry, are you finished with it? She shook her head, thought about the poor horse, and went back to pulling on the window. I think it's painted shut. That man needs to stop, rapping her knuckles on the window. He stepped to stand beside her. Idiot. It isn't the horse's fault it poured last night. What? Tall, handsome. The man climbed from the horse, high-stepped through the mud, unhitched the horse, took the reins, and pulled, leaving the wagon and its lumbered stranded in the rill of mud. They watched as the horse and the man trenched away. He must have heard you, the young man said as he turned back to the travel guide. Should be.
Thank you, Dan. Powerful interior monologue going on there, man. You're taking us into that world. Awesome. All right, we are another in-house reader here. We've got Mr. Stephen Novick going to share some poetry with us. Come on up, Stephen. Oh, no.
Even in its National Poetry Month, I can't believe it's almost like a betrayal.
April is the cruelest month, you know.
All right. Well, here I go. It's entitled Meowie. I woke up one morning and the cat was talking Hawaiian to me. Meowie. I want to go to Meowie. At first, I didn't believe my ears. Meowie. Let's go to Meowie. I must still be asleep or delusional, at least. Meowie. Nope. I said that backwards. I must be delusional or still asleep, at least. Meowie. Yeah, right. I'm delusional. Meowie followed me out of the bedroom and down the hall to the kitchen. Meowie. Meowie. Yes, I heard you already. Here, I'm getting you your breakfast. Come on, Cookie. Meow. I managed to cut her off with a bowl full of treats. Nice try, Cookie, but it doesn't work that way. Besides, since when did you become my travel consultant? Meowie? Nice. I'd rather go to Montreal if we're going to play that game. I need to head east for some ooh-la-las. I know Mom would like to fly south for some Las Vegas, and I'm not ruling out that possibility either. It's just, well, I have nothing against Maui per se, but Cookie, I've seen what you do with sand, and it looks nothing like a castle. Maui. I've never been there, but I know a few people who have. I even got a Hawaiian shirt from them as a gift. Wasn't that a nice gesture? Of course, I immediately wore it like the mainlander I am. Tucked inside. Maui, the beaches, the water, the food, the scantily clad women. Maybe I should go. Meow. Or at least consider that a little bit longer. Scantily clad. Meow. Maybe you just want to get away from me, Puss Puss. I guess I could use a vacation from myself. There's no need to get too far away, though. Perhaps I need the kind of vacation where I lose the excessive emotional baggage of my life and pay 0 carrying fees for the trip home. Worry stones make for lousy souvenirs anyways. Meow. You know, it's just not in our budget, Cookie. Don't you walk away from me now, Puss Puss. Oh, heading back down the hallway. Presumably, you want to drink from the bathtub faucet, which is the closest you'd get to a tropical waterfall. And then you jump back into that bed, that big old bed, while I'm out here in the kitchen making breakfast. Cookie, it feels like you have, in your own cute kitty cat way, thrown me out of bed so you can have all that glorious space to yourself, even though you feel but just a fraction of it, don't you, Cookie? Do you dream so big that you need that much space for chasing birds, mice, chomping on grass, feeling the wind on your fur? Oh. The queen on the queen is her own purring machine. What do you think of that, Cookie? Maybe I'm a poet after all. I know you whine all the time about me being on the computer, but how do you know I'm not booking us a trip, huh? Yeah, it's true. You haven't seen me package any luggage lately. Wait a minute. You don't like getting into the cage for vet visits. How do you think you'll handle the plane? And besides, you don't have outdoor privileges. Remember that last and only time you snuck out of the house? I chased you back in so fast. Maui is just a little too ambitious for a house cat like you. It's true, Cookie. You spend so much of your daytime lying in bed. The closest you get to a vacation is the couch in the living room. Admittedly, sometimes it's cooler there, not as much direct sunlight. But you're not a house plant, just an indoor house cat with food and treats and a stick with a feather on the end you sometimes chase. You gotta exercise too, Puss Puss. Besides, you're safe here. You're not likely to get caught in the middle of some rogue criminal enterprise shootout as shown on Hawaii Five-0. God, I missed that show. Meow. Wait a minute. You want to go outside? Well, you've only ever been out in the once, not in the carrier, though. Oh, my God. My cat has cabin fever. Meow. I can't convince you to stay home, can I? Meow. All right. Do you know any good hotels? One where the cleaning staff can handle cat puke and hairballs? Meow. That's capital M, Meowie, right? Okay. Go back to bed, Cookie. Keep dreaming. Good girl. Nice puss puss. I love you. If I had a dog for a companion, he'd probably suggest going to Timbuktu. Woof. Barcelona has a certain appeal, though. I wonder what ooh la la is in Spanish.
Thank you, Stephen.
Hey, thank you, sir.
Awesome. Enjoy your presentation as always, man. We heard Maui all night. Nicely. Yeah. All right. Correct me if I'm wrong, Karl, but I think we've hit the end of the open micers, except for me. I'm going to jump up and share a couple of poems. I think that's close enough. Okay. All right. I just got a couple of short poems to share. What order? That's the thing. I think we'll save that one for last. This is one I started a long time ago and kind of found as a fragment in my poetry file and started to work on it again. So it's still a work in progress, I think. But it's called Because Poetry Loves Contradiction. And there's a reference in here to dictum condensare, which is Ezra Pound's famous statement about what poetry should be, right? You know, compressed diction. All right. I wish I could be like that artist who rides the subway and paints complimentary portraits of people seated across from him. You know, the guy who posts the grateful reactions of his subjects on TikTok and gets a few thousand hearts in a couple of hours. When I write poems about people, they usually don't recognize themselves, or if they do, beg me not to publish them out of context like that. After all, what can a poem render in fragments, in dictum condensare, compared to the accomplished eye of a painter? If I tell you my lover burned my book of poems before she left, how much have I left out? Her eyes at the time, fierce as fire or triumphant, her lips pursed in determination or drawn back, showing her perfect teeth. They never make it into the poem the way they haunt me now. The flames, the grim set of her jaw, that first night alone amongst the ashes. And thank you. And the last one came on Earth Day, in honor of Earth Day, which we just had. Driving the inland island highway for the ancestors and the animals. Just dusk, and the first does nose out of the woods to crop the new green on the highway's fringe. They come as gently as your mother came to your first rustlings in the crib. They keep their heads bowed to the passing traffic, attentive without appearing to watch, pausing only to shake the rain from their fur or sniff the wind for threats. Further back in the forest, the rattle of antlers, the drumbeat of hooves. Once we drove out in the country to watch the Perseus meteor shower in an August meadow shrouded with brush. The scent of late hay and midnight smoke heavy on the air as we stepped out, our phone lights scanning the alders to see what was making the sapling shake. A single growl rumbled over the silence with an effortless force, thunder echoing out of a great cave, a low throttle warning from an oversized engine that rolled over us and chased the power from our legs. Later, we lay on pavement, still warm from the day's scorch, scanned the constellations for omens, the skies for fleeting meteors, talked about dolphins bellying onto beaches up and down the fragile coast. Now we drive the highways aware of all those unseen eyes watching, the way our dead observe us, traveling the crooked highway home. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, and that's another wrap on an electric mermaid for the month of April in 2024. These months go so fast, but it's been a great evening, and I've just had a great time and listening to so much good writing here. It's just been fabulous. Take my glasses off so I can see you better. There we go. So let's have a big hand for Char for hosting us once again. And to Karl for keeping us on track, moderated time.
And timing, see.
He's taken over the timing duties. It's great. You know, I always forget to push the button to start it. He's always on it. So that's great. Thank you to Karl for coming, to Kyle for coming and helping with the mic again tonight. Thank you, Kyle. Thank you to all the open micers who shared their hearts with us tonight. Fabulous stuff. Thank you especially to Kathleen and David for making the journey over across the water to Port Alberni and sharing your stories with us this evening. Very enjoyable. Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you to Derek for emceeing. Thank you, Derek.
My pleasure. My pleasure. And thank you to Sheila in the back. Sheila, who kept us in drinks and food. And so for those of you here in house, of course, please hang around. We're going to push some tables together and have a little.
So
toast.
Next month, our Electric Mermaid is May 29th, and it's Atma from all the way, is coming via Zoom from Gibson's.
Awesome. Looking forward to that. She's a fabulous poet and a good prose writer as well, fiction writer. So in the meantime, everybody take care out there in Zoom land. Keep on writing. Look forward to seeing you all next month with some more work. And we're going to have a good time here at Char's Night. Wish you guys could all be here with us, but maybe another time. Okay. Take care. Good night.
Night, Leslie. Get some sleep.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you. I will. Okay. Bye-bye.
Hope you don't have to work.
No, tomorrow's my day off.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. Good night.
night.